Hello fellow egoists! In today's episode of Understanding Ego we'll be analysing Hiori's character through the lens of Sai. You might wonder what I mean by that. Well, to answer you, I'll tell you directly how the video will play out. We'll first go over Sai and Hiori's present, how their characters are not only similar in abilities but also in ego. After this, we'll take an in-depth look at Sai's past and what it tells us about specifically his ego. And to close the video, we'll then use all of this to guess what Hiori's future will be. I recommend watching my video about spiral eyes as it's something that we'll use during this video. For those who don't want to though, spiral eyes are basically a representation of original ego. They're the indication that a character's ego is taking over them. For the proof, you can check the part 2 of the video about them. I also call characters' eyes when they have this design ego eyes, and when they have an aura on top of their eyes, aura eyes, regardless of if the ego eyes are there or not. And with that said, let's get into it. Everyone should know by now that our two characters have already been said to have similar passing abilities, with the source commonly used being Sendo's thoughts. As said in my video about spiral eyes, a character's main weapon is always related to their ego. So for them to have similar main weapons, that being their left leg's passing power and technique, already means that their ego is similar in theme. But there are many more examples for them having similar ego. As we can see with the examples being shown on screen as I'm talking, Hiori's aura when he passes or just the way he's drawn when playing is strikingly similar to Sai, especially in one area that's really important. The aura eyes appear for both of them in the same conditions, and their aura in general when using their abilities is similar. Now you might say that this doesn't mean anything, but which characters have also similar auras to another and are said to be cut from the same cloth? Isagi and Kaiser. And we have seen just how similar they are as the story goes on. So, Hiori and Sai aren't an exception to that. So with all this, we can deduce that their egos are similar in essence, though we may wonder, what exactly is that essence? Here we'll be focusing on Sai's past, though we won't go totally in depth on his character as he deserves his own video. Rather, we'll use his evolution to see once again the parallels with Hiori's story. All of this starts with Sai playing as a striker. What's important is that Sai seems bored and nonchalant, up to the moment he passes and ego eyes are shown. And where he passes, Rin appears. Sai's eyes light up and shine as brightly as they could, similarly to each strikers did when they found their ego, like Kunigami when he saw heroes on TV, or Chigiri when he started running, etc. So here Sai awakened his original ego by finding a striker worthy of a path that was made from his deep ego. This is a beautiful scene in that sense. Sai found the reason to live and to play football through his brother, through a person who has the same blood as him. But he's still a kid at heart and so keeps clinging on to his hope of becoming the best striker in the world. Though we are shown that he doesn't really continue being a striker as for the rest of the backstory. We never see him score afterwards, only passing to Rin, except the one time he 1v1s Rin to get their dream back. Though before that, we have a conversation between Rin and Sai where Sai doesn't seem to understand Rin's instinct related to scoring. This must surely be the moment he started sensing that he wasn't suited for the role of striker. To get back to their 1v1, what's important for our analysis is that Sai's spiral eyes in his ego eyes are really highlighted and his text bubble is black, showing that what he's saying is directly related to his ego. So here, Sai finally realized that he was better as a midfielder, but also that his ego is related to that position. And with this, we've seen everything that we need to use for Hiori. If you guys want to go more in depth about Sai, I'll surely do an episode of Understanding Ego about him. Now we can use what we saw with Sai's story for Hiori. As we see here, Hiori isn't fired up while playing as a striker. Just like Karasu says, Hiori has no tenacity in the final third of the field, the place where strikers normally strive. But why exactly? Because unlike Sai, he never found a striker that set his passion ablaze, up until he found Isagi that is, which shows just how twisted Japan's philosophy was up to this point. By killing off genius strikers, they also kill off genius midfielders who would have awakened thanks to said strikers. Though Hiori being riled up by Isagi actually shows parts of what will differ from Sai in his playstyle. Sai was looking for a striker who couldn't be understood, a wild destroyer similar to pre-sealed Ego Rin. Here, Hiori just saw Kaiser pull off one of the most impressive goals of the century, yet he was riled up by Isagi's plays that used metavision. So in this sense, we can surely expect Hiori to be more of a playmaker-based character. Another thing about Hiori's ego is that just like with Sae, he will surely be a rational player who will choose the best scoring option. Just as this panel shows, instead of being a total partner to Isagi, which calls back to Sae and Hiori himself saying this. Now you might use this panel of Hiori as a counter-argument, saying that he wouldn't join Kaiser, but we have to remember that this is pre-game talk. Isagi himself said that he doesn't want any assist in this game, but because of his rational playstyle, he still assisted Kaiser in his goal. So in the heat of the moment, Hiori won't pass to Isagi at all times, especially if Isagi isn't in prime position to score. Though how exactly would Hiori be able to discern the best option to choose? By using metavision. He has been shown to be able to scan his surroundings pretty well, and his football IQ is said to be great by Karasu. Tie this with the fact that he got a TED talk from Isagi about metavision and he will surely develop it. And this, I think, is what will make Hiori be thrilled to play football. If we remember back to the third selection, the one time Hiori has shown his ego eyes pretty clearly was when he was talking about thinking by reflex, on top of most of his passes being made that way, with aura eyes being shown. And if we go back to the scene where Ego explains flow, we see that Ego talks about entering flow through the use of things like smartphones, which calls back to Hiori's use of video games to trance himself and forget about life. But what does he compare that to right after? The joy of immersing yourself in your abilities, the joy of following your ego. And so Hiori's awakening will surely be about him immersing himself in his plays by reflex. He will try to find the best striker available and challenge said striker through his pass. To have the striker not only score but also evolve, which is where exactly I got the name Pathmaker. And the fact that he will always try to find the best striker available instead of always going for Isagi is actually an advantage for Isagi. Because if Isagi gets a pass from Hiori, this means that he's the best striker at the moment, with the most hit to the goal, even more so than Kaiser. By getting a potential goal from an assist of Hiori, Isagi will have cemented himself as the king of bastard Munchen, though that wouldn't mean that Isagi is a better striker than Kaiser. Just like how Messi wasn't the best in PSG, but no one can deny that he is an elite striker, he just didn't fit in the environment. And so while Isagi may not be a better striker than Kaiser, he will still become the heart of bastard Munchen. I do have a proof of why this will happen, but I won't talk about it here, I'll keep it for another video. To get back on the topic of Hiori, there are two things that will surely appear. First off, his metavision design. As I said in my video about it, special designs appear if MV is deeply related to the ego of the player. So with Hiori's ego looking for the best striker, MV is surely deeply related to it, and we may see a special design for his eyes. An idea that I heard from Hesha on Twitter was that he would have Tetris blocks filled eyes, as it could be similar to Isagi's in terms of blocks, and also because he did use the example of Tetris when explaining plays by reflex. Personally, I think it could be similar to a crosshair from an FPS, locking in the best striker and shooting the best pass possible to them. The other thing is that Sae's ego was looking to destroy beautifully, but in Hiori's case it will surely be different. But what could it be? So to summarize everything we've seen, Sae and Hiori have a similar ego in essence. They look for the best striker available and find fun in challenging them by using their abilities. Hiori will surely awaken metavision with a special design and make the final pass to Isagi through a cross-flow interaction, helping Isagi become the true king of Bastard Munchen and beating Kaiser, fulfilling the Naked King prophecy. So with all this, I hope I managed to share just how good of a character development Hiori has had. It's a mix of masterful writing, world building and paneling all in one character. A subtle development whose story is told throughout reading, but that we can only see after putting the pieces together. While doing this analysis, I started to fall in love with the character. Not only because of himself, but because he represents everything that I love about this manga. And with that said, have a great one, fellow egoists. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. Before leaving though, I decided to leave a poll for you guys in the description. You'll choose which character will be the main focus of next episode of Understanding Ego. Stay tuned though, as my next video will be about a theory of Isagi potentially joining Real Madrid, and I'm sure that Isagi fans will love it. And with all this said, once again, have a great one, fellow egoists.